met Patrick when I just got in town, and he was just exiting elementary school. He processed through Nichman, and then he came to Liberty, and he made his mark on the world. And he's not a quiet individual. He's really one who not only speaks his piece, but is not afraid to pick up the phone and call the superintendent. So Dr. Persing, when he emailed me to confirm, he said, could I have Tom Persing's number? And expect a call from Patrick even though he's out of school. But please join me in welcoming one of our own, Patrick Foose.
Good morning. I'm Pat Foose. I have goals. I'm going to college, becoming a lawyer, going into politics, and eventually have the great honor to serve you as the President of the United States of America. I thought I'd start my campaign a little early. I didn't always have these dreams. In fact, if it were not for my time in the Bethel Area School District, they may never have entered my mind. I'm just like every student, except I was born with Asperger's, or you may know it as high-functioning autism. Having a disability has given me valuable insight, how it feels to be different and not always fit in. My years at Liberty provided me an opportunity to learn how to be an advocate for myself and others, when to lead and when to follow, and when to acknowledge that there are some things out of my control. I just have to learn to trust that they will work out. My parents call this balance. Teachers call this being a mature young adult. I call it life. I'm concerned. I graduated high school at a time of uncertainty. I believe I've been adequately prepared for both college and the world of work. But to make society a better place, we as a nation need to all be advocates for those around us. To quote Albert Einstein, who also had Asperger's, the world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. That is why I shared my personal information with you. I wanted you to know that even though we are all very different, each of us has something positive to contribute, no matter who we are, and if we try, we can find a connection with each and every person. We just need to inspire unity by embracing diversity. When Dr. Lewis asked me to speak to all of you today, I can't tell you how honored I was. Dr. Lewis is giving me, a student, the platform to give insight to you, the teachers, on my thoughts, how my education helped me succeed. Man, I'm honored. First, let me tell you a few things about myself. I was born with crossed eyes. I used to have seizures, but I outgrew them. I went to grade school at Hillside, and when I was in the 3rd grade, I was diagnosed with autism. I am very lucky because I have a supportive family who believes in me. They were always open about my disabilities and encouraged me to be open as well. During my senior year at Liberty, I found that although I felt I didn't fit in because of my disabilities, I was not alone. Other students felt isolated because of their race, self-esteem, intelligence, interests, and many other reasons. I know kids my age who have a disability but refuse to be open about it or have an IEP. Why? Because they don't want to be labeled. How can you have the freedom to be yourself if you're embarrassed about who you are? I did not choose to have a disability, and it doesn't define who I am as a person. I just have to learn to work with it. No one's perfect. We all have to work with our weaknesses. I feel the most important ingredients that made my education successful were teamwork, flexibility, accountability, compromise, self-confidence, and the desire to fit in. It is very important for every student to have the feeling that they belong and someone cares about them. I think the support I received was the #1 reason I succeeded. If students don't feel comfortable and safe, how can they let down their guard and have the security to learn? The smallest gesture you make can have the biggest impact on a student's life. I want to share with you a few situations that I experienced that had a great impact on my life. Most of them were not about academics, but I feel all of them helped me become a successful student. When I was in the 6th grade, I met my mentor, Mr. Oz. His witty personality taught me to get a life. And not get so upset when someone tried to tease me. Mr. Hawes and I share a love of Broadway shows. When I was in the 7th grade, I drew him a picture of the Phantom of the Opera, which he proudly posted on one of the walls in the band room. That picture was still there when he retired last year. Mr. Drake was my guidance counselor while I was at Nichman. Lunch was always a difficult time for me, so Mr. Drake offered to be my lunch buddy, and when he couldn't, he allowed me to eat in his office. All my teachers at Nichman looked out for me, and I trusted them because I knew they cared. I always dreaded Valentine's Day. That was the one day I used to beg my parents to stay home. Everyone got notes and gifts from their friends, and I knew I wouldn't get any. While I was at Nichman, I was delighted when I found I had a secret admirer. When I think about it now, it was probably one of my teachers. That act of kindness gave me hope that someone cared, and it gave me the feeling I fit in. When I first started Liberty, I had only a handful of friends, and I felt no one would sit with me at lunch. I used to hide out in the bathroom. Then, one of my friends from PYT let me sit at her table, and she let me eat with her friends. I felt so relieved because I didn't have to worry about hiding anymore. Knowing that I was a Republican and I loved the British Guards, Mrs. Wessner, who was my case manager in the 9th grade, introduced me to Mr. Kopak, who always was willing to talk politics with me. He even started a Young Republicans Club while I was at Liberty. We only had 6 members. Mrs. Wessner spent many extra hours with me during 9th grade, before, during, and after school. She made sure I understood my assignments and that I could handle my workload. I moved to main campus for 10th grade, and well, I was assigned Ms. Irvin. Ms. Irvin didn't make my life easy. She made me think about the choices I made. When she knew I was upset about something, she made me deal with it. And if I didn't, she did. When I started the 11th grade, Miss Irvin decided it was time for me to become independent. She insisted I ran my own IEP meetings and had to discuss my needs with all my new teachers. She would have me put together a list of topics I felt were important to discuss, and we would go over them before I met with my teachers. Miss Irvin and my guidance counselor, Mr. Wookter, stayed with me for the first couple of meetings, and then I was on my own. This forced me to become an advocate for myself and know how to address my needs. There is no doubt in my mind that if it were not for their efforts, my story would be very different. When something bothers me, I really need to talk about it, and then I feel better. Mr. Wuchter, Mrs. Arbogast, and Mrs. Marsili always made time for me when I needed them. Most of my teachers were selected because they had to be up for the challenge of having me as a student. I succeeded because they were flexible, yet demanding, and made me be accountable for my own success. I developed a real love of learning because of them and their willingness to compromise their teaching strategies in ways that I would learn best. They cared about my success, even though having me for a student created a lot more work for them. Now, I would like you to please think about some things that I found very frustrating. Why assume just because someone has a disability that they misinterpret situations all the time? Why teach and encourage students to stand up and speak out for what they believe in when as a society you really want them to keep quiet and not make waves? Why don't more people question things they know are not right and instead choose to believe that's the way it is and it will never change? I find it really hard to understand why some kids are in the in crowd and others are no crowd. And I'm sorry to say, this isn't just created by students. I feel there is an enormous gap between learning support and regular education. And I experienced it both at Nitchman and Liberty. In support class, the workload went slow and was extremely manageable. When I decided I was ready to move on to regular education, I found the workload overwhelming, the speed of the class consuming, and there was no transitioning that was in place to prepare me. If I didn't have my support team in place, I would have been lost. If you ask any of the teachers I had during my years at Nitchman and Liberty, they would probably tell you, I was a man on a mission. I wanted a girlfriend. At Nitchman, I had a rejection list of 70 hot chicks. As I like to call them back then. I wanted to go to the 8th grade formal in the worst way, and no one would go with me. And because I didn't have a circle of friends, going in a group was not an option. Sadly, during my time at Liberty, my rejection list grew to 200. And although I wanted to go to the prom, it never happened. Why can't someone figure out how to include the students who don't fit in but want to experience school social events? Why don't all schools have a best buddy program that match kids who don't fit in with buddies to sit with at lunch and introduce them to other kids? You can even take it a step further. Have a district-wide mentoring program for incoming 1st, 6th, and 9th grade students by assigning them an upper class buddy. No one should feel alone and isolated when there are so many students and teachers around. Why do some teachers use students to divide kids into groups or teams and usually select the popular kids to do the picking? Don't they realize how embarrassing it is for kids like me? Why can't we make sure all school-run activities are really open to everyone, encourage involvement, and make the guidelines flexible so what kids lack in skill and popularity, they can make up with their creativity. Feeling you belong is so important. It can inspire compassion, inspiration, and unity. This year, I took part in track and field. It was one of the best experiences I've had at Liberty. Everyone was held to the same rules, and as long as you followed them, you got to play. I received my letter and I had a great time. I also found it personally rewarding to be a volunteer for the Special Olympics for the last 3 years and was honored to perform in the Rose Bowl with the band this past year. I love politics, history, and the theater. I studied politics during one summer in Washington, and I volunteer for my man, Congressman Charlie Dent, whenever he needs me. I will also be helping out with Pat Toomey's campaign for the Senate. I studied stage management for 2 summers at DeSales. I've been involved in Pennsylvania Youth Theater for the past 10 years, studied karate, gymnastics, art, computer design, as well as tried many of my other interests. I have to be honest. I'm not a standout in most activities I try, but I love to experience new things, no matter how good I am at them. Why is the emphasis with everything anymore about competition and winning? I am a winner. I have the courage to experience life, even though I'm not the best in everything I do. I don't let my disabilities affect my ability to go after my dreams. And I will succeed in life because I don't put limitations on myself, and I am not scared to take chances. I am driven by passion plus desire, and I want to make this world a better place for everyone. This year, I graduated with honors. At a 3.8 grade point average, I'm ranked 106 out of 644 in my class. I also served 382 community service hours. Since I was the treasurer of the senior class, I was one of 6 students to give a speech for over 4,000 people at Stabler. After I got home from graduation, I went on Facebook. I discovered a note from a guy who wasn't always nice to me in school. He told me he liked my speech, respected me because of my strength, was honored to be in the same graduating class as me, and asked my forgiveness for all the times he was mean to me. Since then, I have heard from many other people how my speech touched them. Because I shared my personal story about my disability, its impact on my education, and the social isolation I went through, I made a connection with other students and maybe made them feel more accountable for their actions in the future. I would like to take a minute to thank Miss Chicky. She talked me out of doing the rap speech I planned for graduation. And worked with me until I found the right words I wanted to say in my speech. I hope sharing my story with you gave you insight into what I went through as a disabled student and what other kids go through because they don't fit in. I think it is really important for all of you to remember that you are our role models, and your attitudes towards all students directly impact our classroom and school environment. You set the stage for how we are treated. My success is due to my teachers who have cared about me over the years and share their gifts of patience, knowledge, support, help me strive to be the best I can be, and encourage me to be successful in my own way. Although I cannot mention them all today, they guided me to find my voice, and I plan on using it to help others who feel they don't have one. My educational success was not about getting good grades. It was about the support that I received that gave me the confidence to want to be the best I could be, and the desire to succeed. I'm asking each of you for a favor. I would love for you to remember the Pat Foose story. I'm hoping it will inspire you to reach out and use your talents to enrich the lives of your students who are like me. As a matter of fact, I am challenging you. Find a connection with your students. Make sure they have a friend. Encourage them to go after their dreams, and let them know you care and believe in them. Inspire. As teachers, you are the students' hope for change. Make a difference and meet the challenge. Thank you.
Now you know why we wanted you to hear his commentary. I also want to thank Natalie Chicky, too. I wasn't aware we possibly had a rap speech coming. That's all I need in my last graduation. In all seriousness, Patrick and I have become good friends. I know his family. They're very, very supportive. They're very focused on, as you can see, raising a fine young man. And we are very proud to have contributed to that. But I want to make just a simple point in closing as we wrap up today. Patrick named several teachers by name. Now, there are tens of thousands of students out there that you've touched, and you don't even know them. And had he not given this speech today, or had you not sat in a prior light commentary from Patrick, you would not have known that either. We touch lives, and that's our mission. That's our most important mission. And we must concentrate on that, and we must push aside these other things that sometimes get in the way. Whether it's a legislature in Harrisburg that can't make up its mind, whether it's an economy that's gone south, whether it's debate, arduous debate, about how to balance a budget. Just take pause and reflect on the hard work you do and the results that you gain. That should be our solace, and that should be our focus. I came here 8 years ago with an idea that we could make a difference, that I could contribute to that difference. And I will be very short and brief in saying goodbye. Short to say that I have been honored and privileged to work alongside of you, and hope that I have made a difference. I wish you all a wonderful 2009-2010 school year. May God bless you all.